You're listening to Station K9LQ, amateur frequency 89.6, shortwave rebroadcast range 1.1 megahertz. If this voice is reaching you, you're still out there, and that matters. My name is Fletcher Dawson. I'm speaking from a converted ranger station on the western edge of the Wrangell Mountains, about 15 miles southeast of Chitina, Alaska. I've turned this place into a broadcast point because I've stopped hearing anyone else. It's been 9 days now. 9 days since the first one vanished on air. I used to be an amateur shortwave operator. Call sign KD9LQY. Grew up in Palmer. Spent 15 years in Anchorage working for Channel 7's production team, before downsizing forced me out. I took early retirement and a Ranger Services contract. Moved further out, fixed trail cameras, ran fire watch. Quiet life, peaceful. But I kept my rig. You never really give up radio once you've been on it. It's like an itch in the back of your head. You always want to know who's still talking. I always used to run a 3-hour broadcast in the evenings. News from the interior, weather from NOAA, relayed from the McGrath aviation feed. Once a week I'd read letters sent by mushers, climbers, and remote outposts. It was slow, but real. Then 3 weeks ago, I picked up a call from Kodiak fishermen, requesting ice forecasts near Karluk. Routine. They never signed off. I mean that literally. The feed dropped mid-transmission, no conclusion. Just, we're seeing a line of, and then it was gone. I thought it was weather. Happens often out here. The sea eats signal like it eats everything. But over the next few days, I started noticing more drops. Not the usual static. Not power loss. Just people fading mid-sentence. Then I got the Anchorage feed. I monitor the public safety relay there. On a normal week, you get your fair share of 911 traffic, police chatter, even the occasional scanner from Fort Richardson. But this time, it wasn't an emergency call. It was a fire dispatcher male, probably in his 50s. Good voice clarity, trying to reach units on the ground. He kept repeating the same 2 addresses in Midtown. Said multiple units had failed to respond. Then he asked if anyone was still on. What made me sit up wasn't the request. It was the silence that followed. No acknowledgement, no static, no interference. Just an empty carrier tone. When you've worked radio long enough, you know what different silences mean. Interference has a hiss. Dropped line has a click. But a carrier tone, with no reply, that means the radio is still transmitting. But the operator is no longer there. I kept listening. At 0300 hours on Thursday, the Kodiak Coast Guard Station WFOP-5 broadcast what I believe was a general alert. It only aired once. I have it logged here. This is Station Papa 5. Repeat, Station Papa 5. We have unconfirmed loss of crew aboard the retrieval vessel Kenai Dawn. Life jackets and gear found intact. Engines active. Last transmission included unknown interference. Unable to raise Sitka or Homer. All vessels advised to report any breach of scheduled contact. If any outpost hears this, acknowledge. That was the last I heard from the Gulf. Now here's where it turns. 3 days ago, a woman named Dr. Abigail Trask called into my personal relay. She's based out of McKinley Research Center near Denali, field biologist, originally from Boise. I've had her on Beforschtags bear migration and thermal activity in the range. Good operator. Clear head. She sounded shaken. Said she'd driven down to Healy after receiving no response from the rest of her research team. When she arrived, the fuel station was open. Pumps were running, but there was no one there. Not a soul. No staff, no signs of struggle, no missing vehicles, just gone. Keys still in the kiosk, coffee still hot in the break room. She walked to the EMS station next door. Same thing. Open door. Radio's on. Empty stretchers. Like people stood up and left mid-task. She tried the Denali Visitor Center. The access road was open but unmanned. She went inside. Computers still on. Park logs frozen mid-entry. No sign of where anyone had gone. She broadcasted to me in real time, from the admin office using the SATCOM line. Her exact words, "I don't think they left. I think they stopped being here." And then she paused. I asked her to repeat it. She took a breath. Then she said something else, quieter this time. I wrote it down word for word. "I think we've misunderstood what vanishing really means." That was the last transmission I got from her. You'd think I'm lying. I would too if I weren't sitting here with the audio file in front of me. You can hear her voice. Then halfway through her next sentence, just silence. No cut, no gasp. Just that dead carrier tone. Since then, I've tried everything. SATCOM to Nome, phone relay to Fairbanks PD, HF wave to Juneau. Nothing. I even tried pinging Fort Greely's emergency backup channel, but it loops back like there's no operator logged in. I started doing nightly pings to listeners, standard call and response. You know the drill if you've been in the community. Say your call sign, your region, your known local weather. I asked people to check in on specific hours. Yesterday at 2100, I got 2 partial returns. One from someone identifying as Shelby from Talkeetna. Voice sounded young, maybe early 20s. She said, "I don't know where my brother went. He was here. We were watching a movie. I went to the kitchen, came back, and he was just gone." She didn't sound panicked. She sounded confused, like she couldn't process what was missing. I tried to keep her on the line, told her to repeat what she saw. She began to respond. Then silence. Not static. Not noise. Silence. I'm going to keep this signal open tonight. If you're hearing this, respond with the following code, Red Fox 1. I'll be monitoring every hour on the hour. I'm running 2 independent power sources, fuel reserves for 3 weeks, and cold storage food for longer. I will not be leaving this station. If there's anyone out there, anyone at all, please respond. You're still tuned to Station K9LQ. If you're hearing this, your receiver is working, and that means we're not entirely alone yet. This is Fletcher Dawson, broadcasting from the Firewatch station on the edge of Wrangell-St. Elias National Park, about 80 miles east of Valdez. Today is, well, I think it's Thursday. The calendar says June 12th, but I've stopped trusting dates. I keep hoping I'll turn the dial and pick up a real broadcast again. A traffic report, a baseball game, some guy in St. Paul complaining about humidity, something human, but it's been quiet. Too quiet. Not like the usual dead air patterns you get during solar storms or downed lines. I mean full spectrum silence. Last night, I did another call sweep. I broadcast across all amateur shortwave frequencies from 160 to 300 megahertz. Cycled through the aviation band. Hit the Maritime Coast Guard channel near Sitka. Even attempted NOAA weather ping for fun. Nothing. No response. No bouncing signal. No static off the Kenai relay towers. Except one thing. At exactly 0200 hours, I received a short burst from a ham relay outside Whitehorse in the Yukon. The voice was male, older. He sounded like he was calling from inside a moving vehicle, maybe a truck cab based on the low rumble. I only caught a fragment this. Words were clipped by interference, but I played it back 7 times, and I'm certain he said, "Saw the lights." Then it was like they unraveled. Not taken, just gone. Unraveled. That's not a word people use casually. I tried triangulating the burst, but the Yukon's mountainous terrain plays havoc with directional readings. Best I can guess, he was about 50 miles west of the Haines Junction. If anyone's in that area with a portable receiver, tune to 89.6 FM and listen for return bursts. Even a ping would help. I'm starting to notice something else. It's subtle, but I think it matters. The wildlife here hasn't changed. The eagles still circle above the station. The bears came down to the trail 2 nights ago. The stream is running clear. No sign of ecological disruption. Just humans disappearing. I've done 3 hikes this week. North toward the Cotsina River. South down the ATV trail that cuts near the old mining cabins. I saw 7 empty cars on the trail yesterday. Doors open. Keys inside. No footprints. One had groceries in the back seat still cold from the cooler. Someone packed a watermelon and a 6-pack of cream soda and just vanished. It doesn't look like running. There's no panic, no crash marks, no disturbed soil. It's like they blinked out between actions. One step, they were here. Next step, gone. The last print I found in the mud was a single right boot, size 11, Nike, leading nowhere. Just one isolated footprint. Not a path, no drag, no second step. Just the print, like someone stepped into the world, then never stepped again. And the weirdest part? The wildlife doesn't seem to care. Usually when people disappear in clusters, nature responds. Packs spread. Predators move in. But here, everything is normal. Like only the people got erased from the board. Which brings me to the theory I've been trying not to say out loud. I don't think this is a disease, or a war, or even a natural disaster. I think this is something else. Something slower. Smarter. I've stopped using words like event or crisis. Those suggest we can contain it, plan around it. But this is something happening to reality itself. I read a paper years ago by a physicist out of UC Santa Cruz, Dr. Benjamin Toll. He'd studied persistent gaps in drone surveillance data over the Mojave. Not weather interference, not signal loss. Just areas where the drones returned clean visuals, but later playback showed frames missing. Entire moments recorded as static and time-stamped out of sequence. His theory? That certain parts of space-time flicker at random under high-energy interference. He thought quantum instability could occur at macro levels under very rare conditions. Places could slip for fractions of seconds like blinking pixels in a stable video feed. He was laughed out of academia. But now I wonder, what if people are slipping out, not into death, but into nothing? Like their coordinates are gone, like the map of the world had a tear in it, and they stepped on the seam. Or maybe we're the seam. Maybe I'm still here because I happen to be in a part of the world that hasn't torn yet. I tried calling my sister again. She lives in Missoula. Haven't heard from her in over a week. I left a voice message, just in case the towers come back online. I didn't say goodbye. I just asked her to leave a note if she passed through. Something physical, something paper. I don't trust digital logs anymore. The satellite network is still partially up, but the connection logs don't make sense. I tracked 3 relays orbiting past Alaska 2 nights ago, but none of them transmitted their usual handshake. One relay passed right overhead. Definitely a NOAA low-band satellite. But there was no telemetry burst. No reflection. It was just up there, moving but mute. That's another thing I can't shake. The world is still physically here. The cities are still standing. The satellites are still orbiting. But it's like the human layer, the intentional layer, is being erased, slowly. Not with fire. Not with force. Just subtraction. I know what you're thinking. It's just me. I've gone bush crazy. Cabin fever. Seen too many auroras and not enough people. Maybe that's true. But if that were it, why do I still hear fragments? Why did Dr. Trask call me from Healy? Why did I hear Shelby in Talkeetna? Why did that trucker say they unraveled? Someone else is still listening. That's why I'm staying on the air. Until I vanish too. If you're out there, my signal repeats every 4 hours, starting at midnight UTC. Call and response phrase is still Red Fox 1. Reply with your name, location, and anything you've seen. I log everything to analog cassette. If you're listening and I go silent one day, someone needs to know we were still here. You're tuned to Station K9LQ, Fletcher Dawson on the air, broadcasting from the Wrangell Ranger Relay on 89.6 FM, shortwave rebroadcast range 1.1 MHz. This is my 3rd long-form entry since the vanishings began. Today is June 13th. And I've started seeing a pattern, not one based on logic, not geography, not weather, but a different kind of pattern built out of silence. It's the shape of what's not there. Let me explain. I've continued logging check-in pings every 4 hours. Most are still met with silence. But this morning, at 0400 hours, I received a call from a woman named June Rollins. She didn't use a formal call sign, just a scrambled maritime band with enough boost to punch through on the big relay. She said she was transmitting from an offshore drilling platform, Deepwater Reliant, located about 60 miles off the coast of Kenai. That platform, if memory serves, was decommissioned 3 years ago, but her signal was strong and directional. She said she wasn't alone. Claimed her crew, what's left of them, had locked themselves inside the sub-level maintenance quarters after the surface decks went empty over the course of 4 days. No alarms, no sabotage, just people walking to the break room and never returning. She said their automated systems were still logging badge entries. Workers were swiping into locations, but cameras showed no one there. The logs kept increasing badge IDs flashing in rooms where no one could be seen. Like ghosts with key cards, she said. Her words. And then she said this. There's a rhythm to it. Like tides, people vanish when the pressure spikes. I didn't understand at first, but she explained. The Reliant still has pressure sensors in its external ballast columns. Every 6 hours or so, they spike by half an atmosphere, then fall again. Not normal for an anchored rig. These are sealed pipes, not affected by sea temperature. She thinks the spikes coincide with the disappearances. She believes it's not a local phenomenon. It's atmospheric or gravitational. I asked how many people were left on the rig. She said 5 out of 27. The last one disappeared from the galley this morning while pouring coffee. June says she turned her head to answer a question, and when she turned back, the mug was on the floor, still warm, steam rising. No one there. I tried to keep her talking, but her voice cut off mid-sentence, not abruptly, just softened into a dead tone. Like she was mid-thought, and her transmitter forgot what a voice sounded like. Same signature. Carrier tone still active, but no audio. Gone. I'm logging her report under confirmed structured anomalies, along with 2 other transmissions I received over the past 24 hours. First, a man from Girdwood who reported that the town was intact, but the Anchorage-bound train had arrived empty. Doors open, lights on, no conductor, no passengers, every seat clean. No sign of distress. Surveillance footage from the depot showed people boarding but not exiting. Somewhere between here and the curve along Turnagain Arm, the train lost every soul on board. Left behind only a working engine and a full PA system that was still announcing scheduled stops. Second, a caller identifying himself as Dr. Emery Cates from a remote observatory in Barrow. This was the strangest one. He said his array had captured a repeating low-frequency signal, coming from the upper ionosphere persistent pulse every 27 seconds, like sonar, but without any known satellite correlation. He'd been tracking it for 3 days. It coincided, he claimed, with documented vanishings across his local network. I asked for more details, but he seemed hesitant, nervous. I recorded his final sentence clearly. If it's coming from the sky, we have the wrong map. That was it. He disconnected. I haven't been able to raise him again. I tried calling the Barrow Research Facility myself, but their public line just loops through a connection timeout. What's strange is that these reports aren't overlapping in time but in structure. Each one has a lead-in, a small signal, then the vanishings. Then residual signs of interaction like coffee still steaming, badge entries still pinging, train doors still opening. It's as if the machinery of daily life continues, while the people driving it disappear. And it's happening in clusters, roughly every 6 to 8 hours. And I've noticed it always seems to skip areas with older analog systems, places with manual switches, not smart locks. With typewriters, with crank radios. Here's what I mean. I still use reel-to-reel recording here. I have 2 functioning Marantz PMD units from the early 80s. Mechanical buttons, magnetic tape, nothing cloud-linked. Every time I play back a signal, I've captured Trask's voice. June's call, it sounds perfectly preserved. No corruption, no loss. But when I try to play signals I've recorded on my newer SDR interface, the one with the touchscreen and logging software, every single file has a corrupted header. Data reads 0 kilobytes, nothing inside. It's like whatever's happening only touches the parts of our world built on code. Not wires, not bolts, code. I don't know if that's a clue or a coincidence, but I can't ignore it. Let me make this clear. This is not a virus, not a war, not a natural phenomenon we can see coming over the horizon. This is subtraction, the quiet deletion of presence. I want to speak plainly now. If you are hearing this, and you're in an urban center, leave. Not out of panic, not out of fear, but because cities run on automation, on memory, that isn't really memory. Every system is layered with feedback loops that assume we're still here, that our patterns will continue. But what happens when a place still turns on the lights, still opens the doors, still runs the trains, but no one is left to use them? That place becomes a stage with no actors. And eventually the audience leaves too. Get rural. Get manual. Get where nothing thinks, unless you do it yourself. I'm staying here for now. I have diesel for 30 more days. Wind power if needed. I'm off-grid. I live in a place where the road ends. That might be the only reason I'm still speaking to you. Call and response phrase is still Red Fox 1. If you're on solar, if you're on crank power, if you're running a car battery to power a CB radio, reach me. Say your name, your location, your weather. Say anything. I will log it all. I will keep this line alive. I keep hearing voices. Not hallucinations, not ghosts. Recorded ones. Ones I logged, tagged, archived. But they don't always play back the same way. Let me explain. 3 nights ago, I logged the full signal burst from Dr. Abigail Trask, the field biologist who went missing in Healy. I played it back on reel-to-reel, captured it on cassette, and stored it on my archive shelf labeled Incident, Initial Confirmed Vanishing. Tonight, I played it again, trying to transcribe it more fully. And her words were different. Same cadence, same breath pattern. But when I got to the part where she said, "I think we've misunderstood what vanishing really means," she followed it with something I swear wasn't there before. She whispered, just barely, "There's a mirror in this." Then nothing. No further change. I rewound, played again. Still there. Whispered. Faint. Like the tape had been partially re-recorded. Here's the thing. That unit is mechanical. It doesn't overwrite unless I hit record. I haven't touched that button in days. I triple-check, no signs of wear, no erase head drag. But the voice is there, now part of the signal. And I have no idea how. So I went through older logs, checked every tape for anomalies, found 2 more. A man named Jamal Levesque, from outside Fort McLeod, Alberta. His voice came in clean, 3 nights ago on the 11-meter band. He described a truck stop where every patron had vanished mid-meal. Forks still in hand. Pancakes warm. Credit cards left on the counter. No indication of fleeing, no damage. What's strange is that Jamal claimed to have a working landline and internet when we spoke. He said the local phone exchange still pinged out, and the DSL node was pushing weak packets. He tried sending emails, posting on forums. No response. But no bounce backs either. Just silence. He even read me the contents of one of his outbox messages. "If anyone sees this, reply. Anything, even a blank subject. Just prove the connection works." No reply. He waited hours, then days. He told me this. "It's like I'm shouting into a hallway that has walls, but no ears." I played that transmission again tonight. This time, right after he says, "shouting into a hallway The tape fluttered evenly for a second and a second voice emerged. Soft, layered beneath his own. It said, "There are no walls, only folds." Again, I swear on every broadcast I've ever made, those voices were not there before. The flutter was real. The signal was uninterrupted. But something changed between plays. So now I'm not just collecting transmissions. I'm studying them. These fragments, they're like artifacts. Residual shadows burned into tape. I don't think they're interference. I think they're bleed-through. Leftovers from whatever's taking people. I don't know how else to say it except this. We're not just listening across distance anymore. We might be listening across ruptures. And the signal doesn't always stay on our side. But it's not all whispers. Last night, I heard something new. A signal bounced off the northern ionosphere near Tuktoyaktuk. I only caught 5 words, but they came in clear as glass. Male voice. Deep. Mechanical. Could have been computer-generated. Could have been something else. It said, "Interval reset. Compliance threshold exceeded." Then static. I don't know what compliance it's referring to. I don't know whose threshold got passed. But it didn't sound like a warning. It sounded like a log. Like someone or something is cataloging what's happening. And I wonder if we're the experiment, the variable. Or maybe we're the leftover entries in a ledger that's already been closed. Today I picked up a short message from Portugal. First international voice I've heard in days. A woman named Inês Monteiro said she was transmitting from a retired NATO monitoring station near Figueira da Foz. Her accent was soft, words careful. She spoke slowly, like she didn't expect anyone to answer. She said entire coastal towns in central Portugal had emptied overnight, not gradually, just gone. Fishing villages, ports. She visited one Nazaré. Said she found rows of drying nets, unharvested shellfish, still packed in crates, fires still smoldering in stone ovens. A single child's sandal sitting by a harbor bollard, no footprints around it. She said this started after a bright orange streak passed over the Atlantic 6 days ago. Her guess? An orbital body, possibly man-made. She asked if the US saw the same thing. I told her I hadn't, but the satellites I monitor haven't behaved normally for a week. I asked if she had a name for what she's seeing, a term, a pattern. She said, "Here we call it desvanecer. It means to fade out, or disappear without resistance." Her words, not mine. She also said the frequency she's using was never active before this week. That when she tuned her old military-grade receiver, she found it already warmed, already transmitting, with a carrier tone, but no voice. Something had opened that line. I wrote it down, 1.477 megahertz. I'll listen again tomorrow. And now, here's something I can't explain. At 0300 hours today, I reviewed a full map of logged vanishings by location. I plotted them on a paper topography grid, red dots for confirmed vanishings, black for suspected, blue for static anomaly sites. The pattern looks familiar, not geographic, not tectonic, but mathematical. A spiral, logarithmic, like the arms of a galaxy. Each node is an origin point for a new vanishing cluster, radiating outward. And the next spiral arm? It passes right over this station, within 72 hours. That's not superstition. That's a pattern. And if I'm right, I won't be here to broadcast. But I'll try. I'll keep talking until I'm erased or replaced. Or until the voices replace me. Maybe this is what memory sounds like when it doesn't want to be forgotten. Maybe you're not hearing me in real time. Maybe this is a recording buried under some ruined hillside 50 years from now. Maybe the people digging it up will wonder why the air feels wrong and why old radios hum at night when no one's near them. If you're hearing this now, please, don't just listen. Respond. The call and response code is still Red Fox 1. You say that. You prove you're real, that you're still here. that we are not just echoes bouncing off the last working parts of the world. This is Fletcher Dawson, still broadcasting, still trying to hold the thread. You're listening to Station K9LQ. This is Fletcher Dawson, transmitting on 89.6 FM and shortwave rebroadcast at 1.1 megahertz. I'm still here. It's June 15th. It snowed this morning. Not a lot, just flurries enough to remind me the seasons don't care what we're going through. Everything out there keeps turning. Clouds still roll in. The river's still flowing. The foxes still howl in the night. It's the human layer that's missing. And somehow, that absence feels louder than sound. But I have something important tonight. Something new. Someone finally saw it happen. Not a recording, not an echo, a direct witness. And she's still alive. Her name is Lana Greaves, 43 years old. Former infrastructure analyst for the Oregon Department of Transportation. She lived in a small, unincorporated town called Cedar Mill, just outside of Portland. She came through on analog CB last night, Channel 19. She wasn't sure anyone would hear, but the weather was dry enough that her signal bounced off the cloud ceiling and carried farther than usual. I boosted the receiver and got most of what she said enough to make out every sentence. She saw it. She watched a person vanish in real time. And not just a person. A room. Here's her account, as close to word for word as I could transcribe. It was 4 days ago. I was staying at my sister's place in Bethany. She'd gone to check on our mom's property east of town. I stayed behind. Power was spotty. So I went to the library downtown to use their generator and scan documents. That's when I noticed the lights flicker not like a brownout, but more like a light bending. You know when heat shimmers off pavement? Like that, but cold. The room stretched sideways. Sound got tinny, like listening through a cheap speaker. There was a guy in the room. Just one. Older man, maybe 60s. He was reading a book at one of the side tables. I watched him stand, adjust his jacket, and take one step toward the door. That's when it happened. His movement froze, but the world didn't. His shape got transparent like wax melting but upright. Not sagging, not slumping, just evaporating vertically. First the color went, then the lines, then the idea of him, and then the table, the chair, and half the bookcase next to him did the same. Gone. No sound. No flash. No warning. Just erased. Like a painting being unpainted. She said she ran. Drove for 2 hours north without stopping, eventually sheltering inside an abandoned way station near the Washington border. She's been using the CB radio ever since, broadcasting short bursts every few hours. Said she hoped the wave would hit someone. It hit me. Her signal was rough, but real. Full modulation. And she stayed on the line for 16 minutes before it cut. That's the longest anyone's lasted in a live conversation in over a week. I asked if she felt anything in that moment, cold, nausea. She said no. Just a pulling sensation in the back of her neck, like something was reaching through her, trying to find something else. She ended her transmission with this. Whatever's doing this, it doesn't want attention. It wants removal, like we're clutter. And now it's cleaning. That shook me more than I want to admit. She's heading east now. Her goal is to reach Spokane, or at least find a working repeater tower she can plug into. She says she'll keep broadcasting under the call code Echo Lima 7. If you're anywhere in the inland northwest, scan your bands for her. She's real. She's focused. And she's seen what we've only guessed at. She also gave me coordinates for where it happened. That's the Cedar Mill Library. If anyone hears this and can confirm conditions at that site, send word. After I logged her call, I noticed something even stranger. I checked my own recordings of the conversation 3 hours later. Same tape deck. Same playback level. Her final sentence about clutter was missing, but in its place was something else. A hiss, then a faint click, then a whisper of a voice-a-not, her slow and distant. Observation complete. Begin staging. I'm not crazy. I know what I heard. That voice wasn't human. Not robotic either. It had rhythm, breathing, but it didn't speak like we do. It moved like a language that wasn't designed for lungs or mouths, just function. And it used tense past tense. Observation complete. Not beginning, complete. So I dug deeper, played back other fragments, and now I think I know what's happening. We're not being targeted randomly. We're being logged, indexed. Every disappearance follows a delay 6 to 10 minutes after a known electromagnetic anomaly, low-frequency background spikes. Most of us can't even detect them, but they're always there. These spikes are signatures, scans, and then deletions. And the deletions are getting faster. I plotted every known incident. I've logged Trask, Jamal, June Rollins, Lana's library moment. All fit a growing curve. The timeline between scan and disappearance is shrinking. What started as hours is now down to minutes, maybe seconds. At this rate, if you hear the spike and it's near you, it may already be too late. Unless it's not about time at all. Maybe it's about recognition, pattern resolution. The more of us it identifies, the easier we are to erase. Which means staying off the grid might not be just about hiding. It might be the only way to remain undefined. Don't broadcast your location unless you have to. Don't connect to networks you don't trust. Don't let machines learn your pattern. Stay analog, stay vague, stay unresolved. That may be the only thing keeping me here. I'll be honest, I'm scared. I don't say that often. I spent a winter alone after falling through lake ice near Glen Allen, dragging myself back across half-frozen muskeg. I've had bear encounters. I've slipped off cliffs. I've heard men screaming for help over radios when no one was coming. But I've never been afraid like this. Because now, I'm not afraid of death. I'm afraid of being undone. Of leaving nothing behind. Not even a memory. So I'll keep talking. I'll keep logging. If you're hearing this, save it. Archive it. Burn it to disk. Copy it onto tape. Don't let it vanish. This is Fletcher Dawson. Still here. Still reaching out. Call code is still Red Fox 1. If you've seen something, felt something, almost disappeared, tell me. Tell us. Because if we vanish, we need someone in to remember we were once here. Fletcher Dawson on the air. Broadcasting from Wrangell, St. Elias, Alaska, southeast of Chitina. If this signal reaches you, know this. I'm still here. And something happened last night I can't explain. It wasn't a voice on the radio. It wasn't a signal. It was a letter. Let me walk you through it carefully, step by step. Because this doesn't make sense. Not even by the standards we've started living under. Yesterday, the rain lifted around midday, and I decided to make a hike out to one of the backup ranger shelters, Cabin 9, about 6 miles northwest. I hadn't been since the snow melt, and the radio batteries we cached there needed rotation. The trail was quiet. No wildlife, not even prints. Just wind through the trees, and a few black-capped chickadees watching from the pines. I kept scanning the airwaves, hoping for another voice like Lana's. Nothing. When I reached the cabin, the door was latched from the outside with the old iron bolt we use in winter. Normal. Inside, the floor was dry. Equipment was intact. Wood stove hadn't been touched since March. Exactly what I expected. Until I saw the envelope. Plain white, lying on the bunk. No markings on the outside. No dust. No curling edges. Just clean. Almost like it had been placed there after I opened the door. Inside was a single sheet of yellow legal paper. No header. Just handwriting in blue ink blocky, consistent, done with a thick ballpoint pen. I recognized the handwriting. It was mine. The note was dated. Julie Twund, 2025. 18 days from today. Here's what it said. Verbatim. To me, or whoever finds this, the second threshold will open near the northern ridgeline. Don't enter it. You'll feel like you're being pulled toward it. That's not instinct. That's programming. If you're still in the station by then, don't broadcast on anything higher than 10 megahertz. They trace harmonics above that range now. You know what that means, even if you haven't admitted it yet. By this point, you'll have heard from Lana. You'll have mapped the spiral. You'll be questioning whether it's the planet that's changing her, whether we're in the copy. You're not crazy. Do not trust any voice that answers with the phrase, "Signal confirmed. Aligning data." That's not a person. That's a loop made from us. Burn this letter. Or don't. Either way, someone will find it again. That's the point. We keep looping because someone needs to remember, not survive remember. That's all we have left. I read it 4 times. Every sentence, every word, my handwriting, but nothing I recall writing. And that date, it hasn't happened yet. I left the cabin without taking anything else. I hiked back to the station in silence. No birds, no wind. The forest felt pressed down, like something massive had just passed overhead. Too slow to hear, but too large to ignore. When I got back, I checked my logs. July 20, 2025 is already marked. I'd circled it 2 weeks ago. I don't remember doing that. But here's the part that scares me more than the letter. As I was reviewing it, writing it down word for word into my physical notebook, the analog recorder across the room started playing on its own. No tape in the deck. No power switch flipped. Just a hum, like feedback building. Then a single phrase, in my own voice but distorted, like it had been echoed down a steel hallway. This isn't the first time. Then it stopped. The deck powers on with a physical button. It can't just activate. And without a tape, there's no source. Unless the signal is coming from elsewhere. I spent the rest of the day testing frequency ranges. The upper bands above 30 megahertz air, almost completely saturated now. Not with human chatter, but with this low structured buzz. Not static. Not feedback. Just constant layered digital noise that pulses every 13 seconds. Like a radar sweep. I fed it into a spectrum analyzer and matched the pattern. And that's when it hit me. The pulses aren't scanning for terrain. They're looking for transmitters. Anything trying to talk, anything human-shaped in behavior. And they don't sweep evenly. They curve. The same spiral pattern I logged last week. I think these pulses are mapping cognition. Not just voices, not just location, but thought patterns, emotional consistency, recognition loops, memory chains. Everything we do that proves we are real. And once that pattern is confirmed, we vanish. Not randomly, not violently, just without further use. I'm starting to wonder if this whole thing, this spiral, this noise, this patterness, a form of signal compression, a garbage collector, something that only preserves what it still considers valuable and prunes the rest. We are being de-indexed, which means there might be a way to hide. If you can hear disrupt your pattern, break your routines, change your voice cadence, broadcast inconsistently, mute your call sign, don't let anything define you by repetition. That's how the spiral finds us. That's why I'm switching codes. As of tonight, call and response is no longer Red Fox 1. It's signal incomplete. Say it just like that. Use analog if you can. Avoid automated repeaters. Avoid anything with an auto-squelch feature. If your radio has Bluetooth, disable it. Unplug anything that talks without you. We are becoming too legible. And the more legible we become, the easier we are to erase. I've sealed the letter back in its envelope. I haven't burned it yet. Not because I think it'll save me, but because if someone else finds it, I need them to know I tried, that I fought to leave a mark, even if the spiral comes for me next. This is Fletcher Dawson, still transmitting. This is Station K9LQ, Fletcher Dawson, broadcasting from the Wrangell Relay Post, south of the Copper River, on 89.6 FM, shortwave rebroadcast 1.1 megahertz. It's June 16th. If this reaches you, if anything reaches you, I need you to listen carefully. I heard myself on the radio last night. Not a recording. Not playback. A live broadcast. From me, saying things I've never said. The signal came in just past 0100 hours. It was faint at first, like a looped repeater downrange, but the voice modulation matched mine. Accent, inflection, all of it, my voice. But the content was different. It opened with, "This is Fletcher Dawson. Station K9LQ. Wrangle unit silent, confirming empty band sweep. Anchorage silent. Valdez silent. Juneau confirmed lost. I am the only operator left." I've never said that. Valdez wasn't confirmed lost. Not by me. I've had no signal from there, but I've never called it. Then came the part that really froze me. The voice continued. "Message to Lana Greaves, if you can hear me. I saw it too. The spiral isn't cosmic. It's recursive. Don't go east. That's where the reflections start. I made that mistake before. Don't let them index you again." Again. I paused the tape and replayed that segment 27 times. This wasn't a distortion. This was me, warning someone not to do something I haven't even attempted. Reflections? Recursive spiral? What mistake? Unless that signal wasn't coming from this timeline. I know how that sounds, but I've ruled everything else out. The voice print matches, the phrasing matches, but the information does not exist in my log. So I did something dangerous, something stupid maybe. I transmitted back. I used a narrowband burst on his same frequency site 75 kHz and spoke one line, unencrypted. "What do you mean by reflections?" Then I waited. No response. But 10 minutes later, the main breaker flipped. My station lost power. And when I got the backup generator going, the analog clock had reset. Not just to the wrong time, to the wrong year. July 19, 2026. I checked the digital readout on the inverter, same thing. My laptop BIOS clock, also advanced. GPS dongle, no satellite link. It's like time here advanced locally by over a year, but only for machines. My watch didn't change. My paper logs still say June. My body still feels like it's mid-June. I think I hit something. A boundary. A fracture. Maybe timelines bleed through, like ink in wet paper. Maybe the more we talk across them, the more we smear. So I pulled the letter from cabin 9 back out, the one written in my hand, dated July 2nd. I reread it. This time I noticed something I'd missed. In the corner, faintly penciled like a margin note, was a code, Delta Echo 19, followed by a number, 1-1878, a known aviation frequency, normally reserved for military air corridors between Anchorage and Juneau. I tuned to it. Silence. For 2 minutes. Then, a hum. Mechanical. Almost like jet engines, but no fluctuation in Doppler. Stationary sound. And then a voice. Female, calm, precise, reading a sequence. Sector 2 clean, Sector 3 clean. Repeat, no deviation. 1 remains outside, marked anomalous. Repeating loop, awaiting clearance. No call sign, no identification, just repetition. 1 remains outside. I don't know if that's me. I don't know if that's someone else. But someone is watching this from above. From altitude. And I don't think they're lost. They're the observers. Maybe that's why I haven't been erased yet. Maybe I'm being studied, logged, a known anomaly in the pattern. Maybe that's what the letter meant by programming. Maybe the spiral isn't just a shape. Maybe it's an algorithm. Something running silently in the background, pruning the noise, preserving the clean signal. A planetary cleanup routine that keeps what's efficient and deletes what's redundant. And that means the more we behave like data, the faster we disappear. If that's true, if that's remotely true, then what's left of us might be in the gaps. In the unpredictable, the analog, the erratic. I think of Dr. Trask. I think of Jamal. I think of Lana. I think of that repeating whisper. Observation complete. And now, I wonder if the voices we hear, the warnings, the ghost broadcasts, they aren't just echoes. They're remnants. People, like me, who tried to fight the pattern, who tried to say something the spiral couldn't understand. And instead of vanishing, they got looped, played back like warnings, etched into a broken record. I've decided I'm not going to just sit here, waiting to be overwritten. Tomorrow morning, I'm hiking out to Mount Drum's Overlook. I'm bringing only the hand crank radio, a thermal blanket, and one analog recorder. I want to see what happens when I transmit without pattern off schedule, without signature, in bursts of disjointed phrases and static. I want to see if the spiral can't read me when I stop being legible. If I make it back, I'll tell you what I saw. If I don't, listen for my voice on 11878. Maybe I'll become the next broken signal. Maybe I already am. Until then, no more fixed schedule. Call and response is still signal incomplete, but only use it when absolutely necessary. Don't call unless you have something new, something wild, something off the chart. Because if we only echo what we already know, then the spiral wins. This is Fletcher Dawson, broadcasting from Wrangell, Alaska. June 17th, if that still means anything. I made the hike. I went to the overlook on Mount Drum. And something happened. I don't know how long I was gone. I mean that literally. I brought my watch, my notebook, a backup analog recorder. I logged my departure at 0800 hours. But when I returned, the clock in the station said 3 days had passed. My hands weren't dirty. My pack still had 2 full canteens. My food was untouched. The backup recorder fresh tape ran out 21 minutes into the climb, then cut to static. The rest of the tape? Empty. Let me start from the beginning. I reached the Overlook Ridge by mid-afternoon. Clear skies. Wind out of the northeast. Visibility stretched all the way to the far side of the Nebezna Glacier. I set up the tripod, mounted the antenna, and turned on the crank receiver. Powered it slowly, no patterns. Just a whine, and then static. That was expected. What wasn't expected was the echo. I transmitted 3 test pings. Each one bounced back, but not as a mirror. As a reply. Delayed by 3 seconds. Slightly garbled. Like my own words had been passed through a filter of static and logic. Signal incomplete. Incoherent phrase received. Confirm pattern fragment. I kept transmitting. 10-second bursts. Random cadence. I recited half of Robert Frost's Fire and Ice, a weather report from 1991, and then a list of names from my high school yearbook. First names only. Each time, the response was different. Sometimes it mimicked my tone. Sometimes it repeated the last word backwards. Once, it responded with the sound of breathing, not synthetic, not looped. Real breathing. Like someone was on the other end, thinking, I should have stopped. But I didn't. At exactly 1500 hours, the clouds over the glacier shifted, and I saw something I haven't been able to explain. Not a ship, not a storm, a hole, a void in the sky, perfectly round, absolutely still. It wasn't black, it wasn't light. It was absence. A smooth lens of uncolor, like someone had cut a piece out of the world and forgot to paste it back. And then I felt it. The pull. Not gravity, not pressure. It was like the back of my skull had a string attached and something on the other side of the sky was gently tugging. It didn't hurt. It didn't scare me at first. It felt familiar. Like coming home to a place I didn't remember leaving. My limbs got heavy, my breath slowed, my thoughts started to smearages bleeding into one another. I stopped remembering why I was there. I stopped recognizing where I was. I only knew the phrase, "This isn't the first time." I sat down. I don't remember doing that, But when I looked around, I was already sitting. The antenna was gone. The crank radio unplugged. My notebook closed, pen capped. I opened the notebook, hoping for clarity. What I found was impossible. 3 pages of notes I didn't write. In my handwriting. Page 1 was a transcript of my last broadcast, word for word, but with one added line, marked in red ink. If you read this on the ridge, they already know where you are. Page 2 was a set of coordinates. Somewhere in the middle of the Bagley ice field. No stations out there, no towers, just ice, cliffs, and buried airframes from Cold War flyovers. Page 3 was blank, except for one sentence at the top. Don't listen to the next broadcast. I stared at that page for what felt like hours. Then, everything blinked. That's the only way I can describe it. One moment I was sitting on the ridge. The next I was standing in my cabin, in front of the transmitter, wind blowing through the cracked window. A cup of tea on the stove, still warm. I checked every clock. 3 days had passed. And here's the part that won't make sense. My station log typed on the mechanical Smith Corona had 3 entries I don't remember making. All in my style. All with my signature. One log mentions a call from someone named Josephine. Another refers to a distorted ship signal near the Prince William Sound. The third just says, the broadcast played itself. I didn't press anything. I searched the tape archive. Found reel marked June 16th. Broadcast 3. I played it. It's me, talking, calm, lucid, for 7 minutes, describing a walk through the woods where I find a staircase made of rusted scaffolding, rising out of the forest floor, leading nowhere. I have never had that experience. I've never said those words. But the voice is mine. The rhythm is mine. The tape is physically there. I don't know what to believe anymore. Time is folding. Memory is looping. Something is creating false pasts to cover real events. And maybe that's what this whole thing is. A broadcast war. Not between people. Between layers of reality, each trying to overwrite the others, using user voices, our stories, our signals as tools to reinforce its version. That would explain the mimicry, the feedback, the vanishings. When a version of you gets overwritten by a stronger signal, the weaker one disappears. I'm fighting now, not for survival, for consistency, to make this version of me loud enough to hold its place, which means the next few days may get weirder, more fragmented, more recursive. But I'll keep transmitting. I'll keep logging. I'll keep defying the spiral by being unpredictable, illogical, erratic. That may be the only power we have left. This is Fletcher Dawson. You're listening to Station K9LQ. And I came back from the mountain, but I don't know which version of me stayed behind. If I pause, if I hesitate tonight, it's not fatigue. It's because I'm hearing myself speak before I speak. Not on delay. On lead. 5, maybe 6 syllables ahead of my mouth. Coming from the monitor, speaker barely audible. Whispered, but it's me. And the voice always knows what I'm about to say. It started late last night, after I tried to re-record the log from Mount Drum. I set the mic, hit record, began reading from my notes. But I stopped halfway through a sentence, because I heard myself finish it in real time, over the speaker. Same tone, same breath. Only, I didn't say it yet. It wasn't an echo. There was no delay. It anticipated my words. So I tried something. I stood in silence for 2 minutes. Let the mic run, no movement, no sound. And then, the monitor spoke. Not a phrase, just 2 words. Still here. And it was my voice. No one else in the room. No trigger, no transmission feed. Just a voice from the speaker, saying exactly what I was thinking. I turned off the system, powered everything down, switched to full manual, pulled the breaker from the AC converter, ran off battery only, disconnected the loopback line. Still there. Still speaking. Only now, it's begun saying things I don't remember thinking. This morning I woke up to a line scratched into my notebook, my own pen, my handwriting. I've already told this story. The next version will be stronger. That's not something I would write. At least, I don't think so. I searched the cabin for clues, footprints, signs of entry. Nothing. No marks, no damage. But things are duplicating. Right now on the workbench, I have 2 copies of last Thursday's transmission log. Same paper, same typos, same timestamp. I only typed 1. The coffee pot this morning was full before I filled it. The backup reel labeled June 13th, which I erased myself, is playing again. But this time it ends with a voice screaming in Morse code. My voice, remove pattern. Remove pattern. I don't know when I recorded that, or why. But it makes sense. Because this place, this station, this identity is being duplicated, overwritten, distorted. I'm slipping out of sync with my own continuity. I tried to ground myself. I walked to the edge of the lake, stood in the water, felt the chill, threw rocks, counted seconds between echo and splash. Normal physics, normal gravity. For a moment, I believed I was still real. But then I saw the reflection. It wasn't my face. It was my posture, my frame. But the eyes looked right through me, like I was the glass. And it mouthed something my lips didn't match. I came back immediately. And now, the clock on the wall ticks backwards every few minutes. The tape machine resets when no one touches it. And when I blink too long, I feel like I miss a second of time I'll never get back. This is no longer a signal war. This is reality destabilizing. Line by line. My own words are becoming too familiar, too indexed, too legible. And now I understand what the voice meant, that the spiral is recursive. Every broadcast reinforces structure. Every repetition gives the system a tighter grip on the framework of memory. And once that memory is concretience, it can be predicted. It can be deleted. That's why people vanish mid-step. Not because they're taken, because the pattern can finally complete their loop. No variation, no resistance, nothing left to preserve. And the more consistent we are, the more vulnerable we become. The most dangerous thing I can do right now is tell the truth the same way twice. Which means this message, this part, might be the last time I speak in sequence. I'm preparing the final tape now. The next one will not be linear. It won't follow order. I'll splice it by hand. Words cut out of time. Sentences backward. Frequencies warped. Because chaos is memory's only shelter now. If I don't make I vanish like the rest, you'll know by the silence. Or worse, if you hear a voice that sounds like mine, but finishes your sentences for you, don't answer it. Don't let it learn your rhythm. That's how it builds its copy. This is Fletcher Dawson. And tonight, I don't know if I'm the original, or just another layer in the signal. I don't know how long it's been. The clocks are useless now. My logbook has entries I don't remember writing. Some pages are blank until I look away. Others are filled with notes in my handwriting, but I can't make sense of them. Some of them aren't in English. I'm trying to stay coherent, but it's getting harder. Thoughts are coming out of order. Yesterday I burned the firewood I haven't chopped yet. This morning I remembered a conversation I'll have tomorrow. I keep hearing myself in the room before I speak. I tried not talking for 6 hours. I turned everything off. Didn't write. Didn't think. I just listened. The spiral still came. It doesn't need input anymore. It already knows me. My voice, my shape, my routine. It doesn't ask questions now. It just waits. Tonight, when I lit the stove, the fire spoke. I don't mean metaphor. I mean words. Same crackle, same heat, but behind the hiss was a whisper. It said, "You are the last incomplete signal. Resolution approaching." I stepped away. The light bent around me, not like shadows, more like memory losing shape. My boots sank into floorboards that weren't soft. My reflection in the cabin window was wrong. I blinked, and my own face blinked back a moment later. I've tried everything. Static bursts, random speech patterns. I even played 3 different languages on cassette loops. Out of sync. The signal still finds me. It doesn't need clarity now. It just needs certainty. And I've become too predictable. I can't stop broadcasting. It's all I know how to do. It's the only thing that proves I'm still here, but every word is a nail in my own coffin. Each sentence reinforces the version of me the spiral has already indexed. I think I'm speaking myself out of existence. And maybe that's the point. Maybe we were never meant to persist this long. Maybe memory itself is a virus to whatever this universe has become. An unfinished file. A corrupted checksum. A voice that won't shut off. But I won't go silent. Not yet. I've rigged the station to record until the batteries dry up. The wind turbines failing just in the blades. The generators coughing. This may be my final hour. If you're out there, if anyone is still there, don't speak unless you must. Don't repeat yourself. Don't follow the same path twice. Live wrongly. Live unpredictably. Live wrong. It might be the only thing that keeps the spiral from folding you into its perfect silence. This was Station K9LQ. Fletcher Dawson. If I vanish, my voice stops. Don't assume I was taken. Assume I was completed. And if this transmission ends suddenly, with no sign-off, no farewell, then the spiral has finally won.